I am moments away from doing my first fantasy football mock draft of the 2020 fantasy football season. So I am in a 10-person league, and this is point per reception. So point per reception for beginners of fantasy football, it is 1 point for every reception your running back, wide receiver, tight end, or even on occasion, maybe quarterback, catches a pass. 1 point each. So the draft sort of begins in about 40 seconds, at least the waiting room opens or the lobby opens. So I do want to adjust my personal rankings a bit because Michael Thomas, to me, as much as he can get good production value, I think there is a much bigger necessity at running back. So I'm going to put McCaffrey at 1. We'll keep McCaffrey at 1. Put Saquon Barkley at 2. Ezekiel Elliott at 3. And I want Kamara to be at 4. I want to have all these running backs ahead of Michael Thomas because the running backs are going to be at a premium. And with PPR, McCaffrey and Barkley should be the first 2 off the board. I think there's no doubt about it. Ideally, I want to have a running back with my first round pick. Second round pick, I want to go wide receiver. So I'm going to have Michael Thomas stay at 7, but there's no way he's going to get to in the second round. Devontae Adams, most likely not. Hopkins, Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill. It could be possible one of these 3 could fall to me in the second round. It depends on where I'm picking in the first round. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, one of those 2 will definitely be on the second round, maybe even both. It depends on what is going to happen around my team in the draft. Then we get more running backs, Mixon, Chubb, Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs could be ahead of Joe Mixon. In fact, I'm not really sure what to expect out of Joe Mixon this season. Leonard Fournette, I kind of want to drop a little bit back behind these wide receivers. Because Leonard Fournette is not someone I'm going to keep an eye out on, but I would consider drafting him at the right position, maybe round 3 or 4 if he was still there. But no way I'd draft him in the first 2 rounds. Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Now, these are going to be the first 2 quarterbacks that are going to be off the board in 100% of mock drafts and actual fantasy football drafts. Patrick Mahomes is someone that I wouldn't consider drafting in the first round. But if I did have the first overall pick, maybe I would consider it. These are mock drafts after all. I think Pat Mahomes is definitely a top 10 fantasy football player. Granted that Pat Mahomes can stay healthy, he's definitely behind these running backs here. Now, Lamar Jackson is one of those running quarterbacks. And ideally, I want a running quarterback as my fantasy football quarterback. I want a Lamar Jackson, a Russell Wilson, or even, well, let me get to this draft first. Anyway, I want a Lamar Jackson. I want a Russell Wilson. Or I want a Kyler Murray. I want a quarterback that can get me some extra points by running the football. So I have the 3rd pick in this draft. So I am going to cue Ezekiel Elliott and Alvin Kamara because those are 2 that are going to most likely be there at pick 3. Because as I mentioned earlier, the McCaffrey and Barkley should be the first 2 off the board. And the thing I don't like about mock drafts is because there are a lot of teams that won't really participate in this mock draft. They'll just probably stick around for the first few picks and then not take it seriously the rest of the time. But at least it's serious so far with McCaffrey going off the board first, which is what I expected. And I would expect for Saquon Barkley to be next off the board. But if this person decides to go with Zeke Elliott or Alvin Kamara, at least my backup plan is going to be available. So I'm going to have a choice between what I'm theoretically thinking of Ezekiel Elliott or Alvin Kamara. And if this is an auto drafter, then I'll get my choice between Saquon Barkley, Zeke Elliott, and Alvin Kamara, which would be really sweet to do. All right, Saquon Barkley went second overall, so I'm going to have a choice between Zeke Elliott and Alvin Kamara. And truthfully, I want to go with Zeke Elliott. I know the Cowboys' passing game is probably going to improve with the addition of CeeDee Lamb. I would anticipate the Cowboys throwing the football more. However, this is a PPR league, and I think Zeke Elliott is going to get about 25 touches a game, maybe even close to 30 touches a game in the big games. So I'm proud of this pick of Zeke Elliott with my first round pick. So now I want to cue some wide receivers. So since I had the third pick, I'm going to be up at pick 18. So I want to look and see what kind of wide receivers could be available at pick 18. Because there's no way that I'm going to have DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill fall in my lap. As we've seen Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams fall back to back. Dalvin Cook is off the board now. Maybe Mike Evans is going to be on the board at 18. Maybe I could take a risk and do Travis Kelce with the second round pick. Although I kind of want to avoid having multiple players on the same bye week. However, this could work out in my favor if Zeke Elliott and Travis Kelce can produce enough points during the season. It wouldn't matter when their bye week is. As long as they can keep winning matchups before their bye week occurs, I don't have to worry that much. Kamara went off the board at 7, and Tyreek Hill is off at pick 8. So I would expect Hopkins and Julio Jones to be off the board in the next 3 to 4 picks. These last two first-round picks, they could be running backs. We could see Derrick Henry off the board, yep. And we could see Aaron Jones off the board next. Then it's going to be a big jump in the wide receivers. We're going to see everyone jump at wide receivers here in the second round. Although Josh Jacobs, though, I could use a second running back early on because the running backs, I think, is the position that is the most, that's really limited in huge quality production other than tight ends. I'm really surprised at what's happening because Kenyon Drake is off the board, Austin Eckler, before DeAndre Hopkins and Julio Jones. Julio Jones is now off the board. I'm kind of surprised. I really thought Julio Jones and Hopkins were going to be off that board within the first 2 picks of that first round. Nick Chubb off the board for DeAndre Hopkins. All right, Hopkins is finally off the board. But this second round pick is going to be huge because I could have a choice between Mike Evans, Josh Jacobs and Travis Kelce. But I'll just see what I have once it gets my pick. Because with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, you would think that they would have these phenomenal 2020 seasons with Tom Brady as their quarterback. But am I necessarily sold on that? I'm not as sold on that as I really want to be. So this could seem like a reach, but I'm going to go with Travis Kelce with my second round pick. I know that this could be a reach to some. However, tight ends, if you have a chance to take Travis Kelce in the second round, I think it's best that you do that because the tight ends, you're really not going to get a lot of production out of tight ends this year. You're going to hear about Kelce, Kittle, and Ertz. Those seem to be like the big three, even Mark Andrews. And I think if you have one of those four as your tight end, I think you have a really good shot at not only making the playoffs, but possibly getting to the final and possibly winning the whole thing. And now I'm going to do something else that would be kind of risky, or it could be stupid to some people, but this is going to be really intelligent. I'm going to take George Kittle with my third round pick. And the reason why I'm doing it, I have two of the most productive tight ends in the NFL on my fantasy team. And I can end up trading one or the other to get something valuable in return because they're going to be so desperate for tight ends. I think I could maybe propose a excellent trade and trade one of them for something in value. Maybe I could trade Travis Kelce for maybe Aaron Jones, set up a blockbuster trade, or I can keep these two to myself and just rack up some points. So now that my tight end is taken care of for the entire draft, I'm going to focus on some wide receivers here. I want my next two picks to be a split. I want to do a wide receiver and a running back. Wide receivers, I would think A.J. Brown could be ideal. Whether or not that's a reach or not to some people, I think A.J. Brown's going to put up some great numbers this season for Tennessee. So I'm going to cue A.J. Brown. And I also want to cue, I'm not sold on David Johnson at this point yet, at least in the fantasy football process. Let's see. The Broncos offensive line could improve for Melvin Gordon. Could be well improved. Because it seems like a lot of these running backs are falling off the board. Miles Sanders is off the board. Leonard Fournette is off the board. Clyde Edwards-Helaire off the board. Chris Carson off the board. Pat Mahomes off the board. So I'm surprised that Mahomes has fallen to the third round because a lot of mock drafts I was in last year, Mahomes was taken either the first or the second round. But I think out of all the fantasy football drafts I did, Mahomes was available after the second round, or only one of them. Only 1 out of 5. Le'Veon Bell's off the board. However, on the bright side, if this was a real fantasy draft, I could propose a trade, a blockbuster trade to get one of these running backs. I could maybe trade Travis Kelce to get Miles Sanders or even Clyde Edwards-Helaire. See, I'm going to cue Melvin Gordon. I'm also going to cue I'm going to cue Tyler Lockett. See, if those are my next two picks, I think it would be great. I would cue Juju Smith-Schuster and Amari Cooper, But there's really no point in me doing that because they're going to be off the board within these next two picks. Well, at least one of them will be. Because right now we are 4 picks away before it gets back to me. However, if Juju Smith-Schuster or Amari Cooper is still there, I'll take the chance. But I just don't think I'll get that opportunity. Well, Melvin Gordon's off the board, so I may get a choice between Juju Smith-Schuster and Amari Cooper. Keenan Allen had a good season last year, but unfortunately, Phillip Rivers is not on the Chargers anymore. He's now with the Colts. So Keenan Allen's trade value could go down a little bit. Well, not trade value, but fantasy value can go down. Meanwhile, maybe Amari Cooper's could go up with the addition of CeeDee Lamb. So ideally, CeeDee Lamb can get targeted as well. So we're 2 picks away from my pick, and Juju Smith-Schuster and Amari Cooper are still on the board. Juju Smith-Schuster's off the board. If I get the chance to take, well, I was going to say if I had the chance to take Amari Cooper, I would have gone for it. But I do need a wide receiver. It appears that the wide receiver is starting to fall off the board. We saw Robinson, Schuster, and Cooper go back to back to back. DJ Moore, Adam Thielen, Calvin Ridley been off the board early in this round as well. I'm not sold on David Johnson at running back, but am I going to have any other choice at this point? I'm going to go with Tyler Lockett. And I'm going to be up I'm up in 4 picks. So this could work out in my favor. And since we're approaching the 5th round, this could be considerably a time to go for a quarterback. I'm going to cue Kyler Murray. I'm going to cue Russell Wilson. I'll even cue Deshaun Watson as well. However, if I had the choice between Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson would be my last option because I think Deshaun Watson's fantasy value will go down compared to the last season because he's lost DeAndre Hopkins, his top receiver. So I think that's going to be a huge dent in that Texans offense. James Conner's off the board. T.Y. Hilton's off the board. And I am up. Let's see, what do I want to do? Mark Ingram is someone that I would like on my team, but unfortunately, I think he's not going to get as much action as he did last season with the Ravens drafting J.K. Dobbins in the 3rd round of the draft last April. I'm going to go with Devin Singletary. He's the best running back, at least that I think is still available at this point. I know Raheem Mostert is still there. However, I think it's going to be more of splitting the carries in San Francisco, just like it was last season, the regular season. Although Mostert did have a phenomenal performance in the playoffs last season. But I do like the pick in Singletary. See, we're 11 picks away. And I just realized I can just see how many picks there are until I pick again. I just now saw that. See, AJ Green has fallen off the board. Cooper Kupp's off the board. Cortland Sutton's off the board. I do want to go wide receiver next. See, so we're approaching the 6th round. So it appears that within the next round or two, I've got to strike at a quarterback. I would prefer not to have Watson. I'm going to take him off my queue list because I think Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson could still be there once it comes to me in the 7th round, excuse me. AJ Brown is off the board. That's who my pick would have been, but I should have been realistic that he wasn't going to fall to me, but that's okay. Just 3 picks away until I'm up. So ideally, the best receiver available theoretically could be Stephon Diggs. Kareem Hunt's off the board. See, 2 picks away. All right, so I'm up next. Deshaun Watson's off the board, so this could be that I might have to take the quarterback here because Deshaun Watson, since he's off the board, we've seen Mahomes and Lamar Jackson come off the board. So I might just have to take my quarterback here. And I'm going to go with Kyler Murray because I think Kyler Murray is set up to an MVP this season. I mean, if you've seen what the Cardinals have done in the offseason by trading for DeAndre Hopkins, and he has Christian Kirk as well in his offense, and Larry Fitzgerald, the experience. Larry Fitzgerald is still a reliable wide receiver. It wouldn't surprise me if I would be shocked if Kyler Murray doesn't have an MVP type season. So I'm going to take Russell Wilson off my queue list because I already have my quarterback taken care of. And as far as quarterbacks are concerned, I only want to have one on my team. And the reason why you only really need one quarterback is because there's really no point in having 2 quarterbacks on your roster. Because the only time you really need to have a second quarterback is when your quarterback's on a bye week. So there's really no point in having a guy on there you're only going to start one time. I mean, I know you don't know about injuries, and with this season, assuming that it's going to be played, somebody could catch the coronavirus, and you have to miss about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even 4. That's something to also keep an eye out on. However, I think there's always going to be quarterbacks available on the waiver wire, because I'm sure a lot of people in your league are only going to go with one quarterback originally. But if they do take a second quarterback, it'll probably be towards the end. It'll probably be within your last maybe 2 or 3 rounds. Because the kickers always get saved for last, at least for me. See, so I'm up on the clock and I got to take a wide receiver. And I am going to go with Tyler Boyd. So I think Tyler Boyd is going to have a good season, considering he's going to have Joe Burrow at quarterback. And with AJ Green off the board, it's best to go with the second best receiver on the Bengals, and that is Tyler Boyd. So far, I'm liking the draft I have. I've got 2 wide receivers, I've got 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs. So now, since there's 2, 4, 6, 7 positions on the bench, I'm going to split it up the rest of the draft. I'm going to have 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Excuse me, no. Yeah. No. 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and 1 defense and special teams. So I want to have at least 2 defenses. Because it's almost that time, about round 8 or round 9, someone pulls the trigger for defenses. I'm going to cue Tariq Cohen, and I'm going to cue Jordan Howard. That was Marlon Mack. So I'm going to cue those 2 because that's what I'm planning for my next 2 picks. Because if I can just get these running backs out of the way, because the running backs I think is going to be very difficult to try to stack up in later rounds. At least they're going to get you this quality. I'll also cue Kerryon Johnson, but I really don't think he's going to be available by the time it's my pick 2 picks from now. But I'll cue him anyway, just in case he's going to be on the board. But it's not really the worst case scenario because I'm at least going to get to choose between Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard. Even though I did say earlier that I want to avoid having more than 2 on a bye week, I think you could afford, at the end of the day, maybe have some bench players share the same bye week, but not too many. But at least realistically, it's not 3 starters that are in your main lineup have the same bye week. All right, Rob Gronkowski's off the board in the 8th round. So now I'm on the clock, and to my surprise, I do have a choice between Kerryon Johnson, Tariq Cohen, and Jordan Howard. I am going to go with Kerryon Johnson here. That way I can just solidify a 3rd running back on the team. And if it could come back to me, I'm going to go with Tariq Cohen as well to kind of go back to back with the running backs. This may be an auto pick here. Darrell Henderson out the board, Michael Gallup. TJ Hawkinson was the last pick. So now I'm on the clock, and I am going to go with Tariq Cohen. I know Will Fuller's a tempting pick, but Will Fuller, he seems to have only about maybe 3 or 4 good games a season. And to have a reliable receiver like that, someone I don't really want to rely on. Because it's just a guessing game on where those 3 to 4 games are going to be. So I'm going to go with Tariq Cohen. Because I feel pretty solid as far as receiving is concerned with Travis Kelce and George Kittle, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd. So now that I've got 2 of the 3 running backs that I want out of the way, I'm going to focus on wide receivers now. Christian Kirk, I'm going to queue. I think Christian Kirk at this point will be a major steal. If I can get him in the 10th round, that'd be huge. And I'm also going to queue Marquise Hollywood Brown. But we'll see if I can get to him. I doubt it. But as long as both of them, well, I can choose between one of the 2 of them, I think that'd be great. All right, Will Fuller's off the board. James White's off the board. Tyler Higbee, Hunter Henry. Seeing some tight ends going off the board here. Darius Geis is off the board. Sterling Shepard is off the board. Jordan Howard's off the board. Crowder's off the board. Looks like the 5 picks after this before me are going to be auto picks. So Philip Lindsay, Jared Cook, Tom Brady's off the board. Sonny Michel's off the board. Matt Breita's off the board. Matt Ryan's off the board, which ideally I could see myself drafting Matt Ryan. I mean, bias aside. But with the Falcons' defense being really atrocious, the Falcons are going to be on offense a lot, and not really a lot, but they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. And Matt Ryan, over 4,000 passing yards in the last 8 seasons. So I'm up on the clock, and I'm going to end up getting who I want, and that is Christian Kirk. I know I missed out on Marquise Hollywood Brown, but I just prefer Christian Kirk at this point, especially because he's going to be a part of what I think is going to be the offense that surprises everybody this season. Maybe I could have done Hollywood Brown and possibly Kirk would have fallen to me, but it probably wouldn't have happened in a real fantasy football draft because everybody's going to be there at the draft, and half these people are auto drafting. So now I'm going to have a choice between Darius Slayton had a pretty decent season last year. Jerry Jeudy. I'm going to take my chance on the rookie, Jerry Jeudy. I'm taking my chance on him. And now we're seeing a bunch of wide receivers in a row going off the board. Cooks, Tate, Deontay Johnson, Ruggs, Preston Williams, Slayton, Emmanuel Sanders, John Brown. And now we're starting to see some quarterbacks go off the board. Carson Wentz, Drew Brees in the 12th round, Aaron Rodgers in the 12th round as well. And now I'm on the clock again with my 12th round pick. Let's see. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. I know this doesn't seem ideal, but I think CeeDee Lamb is going to have a good season with this Cowboys offense. See, now I want to establish a running back here. I'm surprised nobody's gone with defense yet. Maybe it's because all these quarterbacks are going to be available in late rounds like Breeze and Aaron Rodgers. And I am going to go with, I want to get another running back before it's too late. So I am going to go with, I'm going to go with Latavius Murray. I was thinking Boston Scott, but Boston Scott, he seems like someone that just blooms in the later portion of the season. Now we're seeing some rookie receivers off the board. Justin Jefferson off in the 13th round. Rager, 13th round. Zach Moss is coming off the board. Starting to see some rookies come off the board here. Now on the clock with my 14th round pick. And since I already have 3 running backs and 3 wide receivers, I'm going to be, to my knowledge, the first person to take a defense. And I'm going to go with the 49ers defense. So now let's see if this translates to a bunch of people going with defense. See the Bills defense off the board. The Steelers defense is off the board. Back to back. So this is what happens when one person goes with defense and special teams. A bunch of people are going to start doing the same thing. And now I'm on the clock again. So the Patriots defense, the Ravens defense. I've got all these defenses to choose from. But I'm going to go with the Bears defense. Actually, no, never mind. They share the same bye week. Both week 11 bye weeks. So I want to avoid that. I'm going to go with the Patriots defense. Because even though the Patriots defense is kind of, well, the Patriots in general, they've lost a lot in the offseason. But I think their defense will still be good. See, now we're going to see a bunch of defenses falling off the board. And now they're going to start doing kickers since it's the last round. And I'm going to go to the kicker list. And it doesn't really matter who you take as a kicker because kickers are pretty much all the same. You're going to get some value. So Tucker and Butker and Lutz, those 3 you can rely on. Zerlon, Robbie Gould, Boswell, you can rely on pretty well. I'm going to go with, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to take a random kicker here. I'm just going to go with Jake Elliott here. So that completes my first mock draft of the 2020 fantasy football season. So let's quickly recap. In the first round, I went with Ezekiel Elliott. In the second round, I went with Travis Kelce. The third round, which could be a very smart decision long term, George Kittle, as I was saying right when it happened, I could maybe trade one of these 2 to get something valuable in return. Maybe make a blockbuster trade or keep these 2 to myself, knowing that I have 2 of the best scoring tight ends in the league. With Lockett in the 4th round, Devin Singletary the 5th round. I got my quarterback in Kyler Murray in the 6th round, mostly because I wanted to ensure that I got a quarterback that I wanted. Tyler Boyd in the 7th round, Kerryon Johnson in the 8th round, Tariq Cohen in the 9th round, Christian Kirk in the 10th round, Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb I went in rounds 11 and 12. I think these are 2 rookie receivers that are going to have fantastic rookie seasons. With Latavius Murray in the 13th round, the 49ers defense in the 14th round. As I was saying, I was the first one to go with defense, and then it started with a bunch of people going with their defense as well, trying to stack them up. Then with the Patriots defense in the 15th round, and I wrapped it up with taking Jake Elliott, the Eagles kicker. So that is all I have for this mock draft. I'm going to do quite a bit of more mock drafts because there's something that I mean, you got to find something to do because there's only limited sports right now. So I'll see you next time.